Hey there, everyone. I'm Colin Weston, host of the Mod Golf Podcast. On this episode, I have Jeehae Lee joining me, who is the co-founder and CEO of Sportsbox AI. And Jeehae joined me on our audio version of the podcast. We just recorded that, had a great conversation about her connection with golf, her life on the LPGA Tour, and her work at Topgolf. But really want to encourage you and consider going back and listening to that episode. And down below, we'll include that link to make it nice and easy for you to do that. But we're going to talk about a couple of other things here in the conversation we're going to have. So to open up, there she is. So Jeehae, how are you doing today? How's it going? It's looking very dark there. I know you got your background. It's like got a bit of a goth thing going on there. You're looking very dark.
Yeah, I like to keep it simple for Zoom, no crazy colors, no crazy patterns. But yeah, nice. Thank you for having me on.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, hey, why don't you give our viewers here the elevator pitch of what you do and why you do it with Sportsbox AI?
Yeah, so Sportsbox AI, in nerdy terms, we're a computer vision AI company that can turn simple 2D videos into full 3D information that you can use to analyze your motion and ultimately improve your technique and whatever you do, whether it's a golf swing or yoga move, whatever it is, we can assess you and help you improve.
Love it, love it. Okay, so want to ask you this because I work in the entrepreneurship space, both in golf and all other industry and tech sectors. And one of the questions I have, people ask me all the time, people, founders in the startup space is, how do I raise money? Where do I get money? How do I get this thing, cross that chasm? So perhaps you can tell us, without revealing the actual numbers here, how you've gone about on your journey transitioning from your work at Topgolf to what you're doing now. So how are you funding it? Are you bootstrapping it? The term we use in entrepreneurship to basically pay for it yourself and friends and family. And how are you going about to raise money? So tell us about that. How are you managing to fund this thing? Because as we know, one of the main reasons why startups fail, and 8 or 9 out of 10 sadly do fail, is they run out of money. They run out their runway is it just takes too long to get things going. So how are you managing to add some financial fuel to the fire to get this thing off the ground?
Yeah, no, I've been really lucky. I've had the benefit of having industry folks, friends and family who have jumped on and said, "Hey, this is a game changer for golf and other sports. So we want to be part of it." And so we raised a small friends and family round. But now that we have a product in the hands of our customers, we're kind of getting ready to raise that seed round.
Nice, nice. And I know we see shows like Shark Tank where they really glamorize and romanticize, getting that money and getting the funding, for whatever valuation of the company is at an early stage. And I think we both know that that A is first, that's TV, and that's unrealistic. It's not how the entrepreneurship journey works, that you have to start raising money months and months and build those relationships before you need it. So you can talk about that a little bit, as far as you've got two other co-founders, about the concept of not diluting the value of your company and how you need to do a little something called get customers and generate revenue. So talk to us about that, of where you see Sportsbox AI going, the size of the market, and the potential here, not only in golf but other sports, as an AI powered training aid, of that financial part there of you building the business of value, that you don't build it up and then, well, that's great, but now I own 3% of the company. I may as well have just had a job.
Yeah, 100%. So it's always a balance of not running out of money, but also not getting overly ambitious or eager, or, a lot. I think entrepreneurs who have a lot of traction, be lucky enough to have traction, get too excited about people wanting to give them money, or so I heard, this is a problem. And what I've been advised is that be very, very judicious about exactly what you're projecting in terms of your actual revenue and the growth of the company, the valuation that you're expecting at the various different stages in the future, and make sure that you don't overraise, right? Like if you believe that in 18 months from now you're going to be at a run rate of, let's say, 20 or whatever, $10 million or $5 million, whatever it is, like be very, very, very judicious and realistic about those projections, and base your valuation on those projections and don't raise beyond the amount that you want to be diluted against that. So
Yeah,
that's kind of,
that's a great tip, because everybody falls in this trap. It's like, oh, well, we've been valued at this. It's like, well, you better perform on that, because otherwise, the next time you go for money and you're worth less, guess what? That's whatever the opposite of momentum is, lack thereof, because you're going the wrong way. So hey, I know we only have a couple of minutes here because you got to jump on something else here. So I want to keep this kind of short and sharp for our viewers. But let's get real about this. You're not like me, middle-aged white guy, where the majority of the funding for tech and startups in Silicon Valley have gone for years. So talk about your journey as a woman, as an entrepreneur, the challenges and the barriers, because sadly, women, well, not sadly, women make up 51% of the population, but sadly, the numbers are grim. Like 3 to 5% of the funding goes to female founders and female-led startups and early growth companies. So can you talk about that as far as the challenges and what needs to improve so that it does become more equitable as time goes on?
yeah, absolutely. And we're really proud of the fact that the 3 co-founders are all minorities and children of immigrants. So myself and Stephanie were Asian American. I wasn't born in this country. Our CTO, Sam, wasn't born in this country. He's actually Latvian. He came to the US on a refugee status. So the 3 of us is hide behind it as a weakness. And we're going to find other investors who believe in us and our product and our technology, and or frankly, the conversation always goes better when there are fans of golf or golfers themselves, and we're going to leverage that and really, tell our story instead of kind of whining and moaning about the fact that there's not enough investment made towards startups founded by women.
Got it. No, thanks for sharing that. So the other thing in entrepreneurship we talk about is there's a saying is, if you want to go fast, you go alone, but if you want to go far, you need to go together. So talk about partnerships that you've built, that foundation before you launched Sportsbox.ai. So talk about within the industry and sports tech and AI, and also perhaps other women entrepreneurs that whether they're professors at school or just mentors that you've had over the years and now to inspire you and encourage you and help guide you along your journey.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of partnerships, first I'll start internal, right? Stephanie and I both come from the golf world, but we don't have a technical background. So in Sam and his background, we have a great partner who is an expert, like world-class expert in AI, machine learning, and building products using machine learning. So we have a great partner there, and I think it's going to be really difficult to find another kind of competitor in this space who brings the experts in both sides, right? The sports side, the industry side, sports business side, and as well as kind of the machine learning and AI side. So feel really good about that partnership there. Externally, I mean, one of the first things I did when I started Sportsbox was, let's go out and find experts in the golf instruction world. So we immediately partnered with some of the experts in that field. Now we have the likes of Mike Adams and Terry Rolls and Sean Foley as our partners in squarely in the golf instruction world. That's going to help us. That's who've been helping us build a better product. So
love it. So that's such a key takeaway there, that you need to build those relationships and get those ambassadors, get those people that help validate what you're doing, and that will propel you forward. And you need that in order to scale. So the last question I'm going to ask is a bit of a scale segue here. It's not just golf. You see the potential as an AI-powered training aid. So I know golf, because that's what you and Stephanie know first and foremost as your beachhead, the fact you're going to get into that market first, and you already are. But talk about the future of where you see, without having to kind of determine where you're going to go or what sports. So where do you see the potential here of being able to scale this, not only globally, but also in other sports sectors? So let's finish up with that question.
Yeah, so in the golf world, we see a massive potential. Golf is really unique in that, yes, it may seem like a niche sport in terms of the pure participation numbers compared with the likes of baseball or basketball, whatever have you. Only 25 million golfers in the US. But what's really unique about the golf world is that, unlike other sports, almost 100% of the participants are spending time, energy, and money to get better. Right? Whether you're a 8-year-old grinding on the range at the, in Seoul, Korea, like I was, right, as a child, all the way to, my dad, who's 75 and still working at his game. The entirety of the spectrum are potential customers for something like, Sportsbox. So that's something that makes golf really unique. So we see a massive potential there. But outside of that, we believe that there's application for accurate 3D measurements and, kind of feedback mechanism based on accurate 3D measurements. We see an application for that in all genres. So whether it's yoga, right? You get a lot more out of your 30-minute, hour-long practice if you have somebody who's looking at you and saying, hey, you got to get your legs a little bit straighter or whatever have you, right? So being able to provide that feedback using accurate measurements, we see a massive potential for us to really change the sports and fitness industry overall.
Love it, love it. Well, it's not called Golf Box; it is called Sports Box. I think that's very intentional. The fact that so your total accessible market, your TAM, as we call it, like the size of the potential market on the global field is huge, and then that accessible market, of course, is also quite big. So super exciting stuff there. So hey, why don't we finish up there? Once again, I can keep going and going and going here, but we do want to encourage, as I mentioned earlier, the viewers here to become listeners, because the conversation we had earlier was amazing also, and we talked about all kinds of different things, everything you've done previously that led up to the creation of Sportsbox.ai. So once again, we do encourage all of the viewers here for you to check that out down below. So to finish up here, Jeehae, why don't you mention where people can find out more about Sportsbox.ai?
So a couple things we are going to be launching where you can find us in the App Store in early October. We haven't set a firm date yet, but if you do want to keep track of where we are, go on our website, make sure to drop your email at sportsbox.ai and follow us on social media. We're on Twitter and Instagram. There's really great content that we are putting on our Instagram channels specifically. So at sportsbox.ai.
Nice, nice. Great to see you again. And thanks so much for joining me today on the Mod Golf Podcast.
Thank you so much, Colin.